Together, they killed her and left her body hidden by a blowtorch.
The body was later identified as 35-year-old Shakira Spencer.
She was tortured, enslaved, starved, and forced into work.
First, we head to England for a deeply disturbing case. This case is truly evil. Ashana Studholm, Sean Pendlebury, and Lisa Richardson were accused of the horrifying death of Shakira Spencer, a mother who suffered unimaginable torture in her own home in Ealing, West London.
In Ealing last year, a call from a concerned resident who hadn't seen her neighbour for some time resulted in the body of a woman being found. The body was later identified as 35-year-old Shakira Spencer, described as a beautiful soul who cared deeply about people.
For a long time, Studholm, Pendlebury, and Richardson continuously abused Spencer. They took advantage of her vulnerability, forcing her to serve them, clean their homes, and run errands at all hours while subjecting her to physical and emotional torment.
Shakira Spencer, here in her early 30s, a mother of two. This was Shakira after the campaign of abuse.
Their cruelty was limitless. They burned Spencer's feet and forced her to eat ketchup from packets, taking away her dignity and freedom. This brutal treatment ended in tragedy when Spencer died.
Ashana Studholm, who was pregnant during the abuse and gave birth in prison. Her former boyfriend, Sean Pendlebury, and their friend, Lisa Richardson. Together, they killed her and left her body hidden by a blowtorch to in her child's bedroom.
Spencer was once beautiful, happy, and healthy, but her life was tragically cut short. The relentless abuse she suffered left her body in a skeletal state. The attack was so severe that the exact cause of death couldn't be determined. However, the post-mortem exam revealed crushing injuries to her body.
Arrested on suspicion of Shakira Spencer.
Miss Spencer's badly decomposed body was discovered 2 weeks after her death when neighbors noticed maggots coming from her flat. The Metropolitan Police revealed that Shakira Spencer had known the three individuals for some time. Their relationship was complicated, but she fell completely under their control within less than a year. Eventually, they were arrested. The details of her abuse were so horrific that even her family couldn't believe the extent of it.
Sounds like a horror film times 10. Like, you almost don't believe it's real. You think, oh, someone's making it up, until you actually sit there in the trial and there was no remorse, nothing. These people are not what we would call humans. It's demonic.
The height of her torment occurred during a violent assault between September 9th and 12th, 2022. Pendlebury and Studholm left her in her home, where she tragically died in a cupboard less than a week later. Her death went unnoticed until neighbors saw a swarm of maggots coming from her flat, leading to the grim discovery. When her decomposed body was found, the judge didn't hold back in delivering justice.
The levels of brutality were wholly exceptional, and Shakira's suffering was extreme.
CCTV footage showed the defendants using her credit card to buy cleaning supplies, attempting to erase any evidence of their involvement. Additionally, messages found on their phones included videos of Miss Spencer being hurt while others laughed. During Friday's hearing, Miss Spencer's son described the trio responsible for his mother's death as cruel and evil.
He was tortured, enslaved, starved, and forced into work, all at the hands of those she considered her friends.
He shared his anguish, describing the nightmares and daily anxiety he experienced. Unable to shake the haunting image of his mother's suffering, he questioned the defendants' lack of compassion and lamented their betrayal, noting that they left his mother to die alone. Judge Rafey said Miss Spencer's son spoke about the heartbreak caused by his mother's death, expressing the pain of not being able to say goodbye and the torment of knowing she died feeling unloved. Senior Crown Prosecutor Debbie Caron echoed the sentiments of Miss Spencer's family and friends, acknowledging the suffering she endured. She emphasized the twisted and sadistic control exerted by Pendlebury, Studholm, and Richardson over an extended period, hoping that the conviction would offer some justice to Miss Spencer's loved ones.
By law, I must set a minimum term that you must serve before you can even be considered for release. This is not your sentence. Your sentence will be life imprisonment. The starting point for the minimum term of like this is set by law at 30 years.
During one weekend in September 2022, Shakira endured the worst abuse from her attackers.
Images of Shakira before she fell under your influence show her full of life, healthy, and smiling. She is unrecognizable at the end.
The judge, visibly shaken, continues.
Emaciated, broken, all who watched it will be slow to forget the CCTV footage of Shakira trying to walk on scalded feet in the middle of the night.
Judge Rafey criticized Pendlebury and Richardson for their complete lack of compassion or remorse towards Shakira. She noted their refusal to take responsibility and their attempts to blame each other, showing no signs of regret. Turning to Studholm, the judge described her as aggressive and manipulative, with no signs of mental illness. She also pointed out Studholm's lies to probation officers and her lack of remorse.
You, Pendlebury, lived in her flat while she slept in a bike shed. You, Studholm, started as a friend, but ended as the worst kind of enemy a person could have. You, Richardson, showed Shakira nothing but exceptional contempt and aggression.
Speaking about Pendlebury, Judge Rafey acknowledged his low intelligence, but focused on his active involvement in Shakira's torture. Additionally, Shakira's father, Lloyd Camacho, described his daughter as vulnerable, highlighting his family's deep pain. Shakira's mother, Murgia Spencer, compared the attackers to wild animals, emphasizing their lack of remorse.
Stand up, the three of you. The sentence for is fixed by law, and it's a life sentence, and I sentence all three of you to life imprisonment for the murder of Shakira Spencer. There will be 5 years concurrent for count 2. Please understand that you may never be released.
In the end, they were sentenced to life in prison and required to serve a minimum of 34 years. To start this story, we travel to Russia for the sentencing of Andrei Romanovich, also known as the Red Ripper, or the Butcher of Rostov. During a challenging time, Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo was born on October 16, 1936, in a small village called Yablochnoye in rural Ukraine. The 1930s were tough for Ukraine, known as the breadbasket of the USSR. Stalin's efforts to collectivize farms made things even harder, leading to a devastating famine. This difficult period, along with bombings during the war with Germany, shaped Chikatilo's early life, which was filled with hardships.
Скажите, это украинское? Что это? По-украински произносится Чикатило.
On December 22, 1978, Chikatilo committed his first known crime. He lured Lena Zakotnova into an abandoned shed. In a struggle to control her, he ended up injuring her with a knife. Though an eyewitness saw Chikatilo with the victim before her disappearance, his wife provided him with a solid alibi that kept him off the police radar. Another man, Alexander Kravchenko, with a prior conviction, was forced into confessing to the crime under harsh interrogation and was executed in 1984 for Lena's murder. After this close call, Chikatilo didn't have any recorded victims for 3 years. Faced with allegations of child abuse and unable to find another teaching job after losing his position at the mining school in early 1981, he started working as a clerk at a factory in Rostov. This job gave him opportunities to target victims over the next 9 years.
Когда вы были ребенком, да и не только ребенком, вы любили ласку.
Да я не знаю, любил или нет, я ее не имел, никто не ласкал.
Chikatilo's next victim, Larisa Tkachenko, was killed on September 3, 1981. His pattern involved targeting runaways at transportation hubs and leading them into secluded forest areas. There, he would attack and harm them with a knife.
Никто никогда не ласкал, никогда, потому что у нас как раз все мое детство пришло, это на военные, на голодные годы, так что мы там только лишь бы пухлые ходили, лежали бы выжить, как это.
Some victims had parts of their bodies removed. Initially, he often inflicted injuries to the eyes, believing it would prevent his victims from seeing him even after death.
Старшего брата Степана съели во время голода, людоеды съели, схватили люди, голодные, отчаявшиеся, его съели. И мать меня все время предупреждала, не выходи со двора, то Степана съели, тебя съедят.
Despite efforts to apprehend the killer, the attacks paused for some time, leading police to speculate that the culprit might have been arrested for other offenses, in jail, or deceased. However, in early 1988, Chikatilo resumed his killings, this time focusing mostly on boys in public places.
Я мук, сколько мук пережил, я уже, если описать эти мои все муки, я все круги ада уже прошел.
Under mounting pressure from the media and the public, police increased general patrols, concentrating on areas likely to attract the killer. Despite narrowly escaping capture multiple times, Chikatilo was finally spotted by patrolling officers on November 6, 1990. After his last crime, his suspicious behavior raised concerns, leading to his identification and eventual surveillance due to his prior arrest in 1984.
На том свете не раз я уже, поэтому очередной раз я готов. В любое время я уже с этим уже смирился уже.
Chikatilo was arrested on November 20th, 1990, following more suspicious behavior. Initially, he refused to confess to the killings. However, after allowing a psychiatrist, Dr. Bukanovsky, who had created his psychological profile, to speak with him under the guise of understanding his mind scientifically, Chikatilo opened up. He provided detailed accounts of his crimes, even leading authorities to previously undiscovered bodies. He admitted to taking the lives of 56 victims, although only 53 could be independently confirmed, surpassing the 36 cases initially attributed to the serial killer by the police.
Кошмары.
Я как нормальный, может быть, в том смысле, что у меня вот эти вот все, как и психическо-сексуальная или сексуально-психическая ущербность, вот эта вся, вот эти все перверсии, и на базе этого все вот эти мне вот уже там на мозги всякие клапаны ставили, там мозги там фиксировали, там они зафиксировали какие-то.
Declared mentally fit for trial, Chikatilo appeared in court on April 4th, 1992, and was kept in an iron cage to separate him from the victims' families. Known in the media as the Maniac, his behavior in court ranged from disinterested to erratic, including singing and speaking nonsensically. At one point, he reportedly exposed himself to the courtroom. Despite his actions, one thing was clear: the victims' families wanted justice. They made sure to attack him throughout the trial verbally. It was so intense that they had to keep him in a cage for his own safety. Despite this, the rage and pain coming from the courtroom was intense.
He was in a large iron cage in the courtroom. The cage was to protect him from the rage of the parents of the victims.
He was never able to sit at a table and converse with his lawyer the way a Western defendant would have.
These parents wanted him dead. To make matters worse, Chikatilo showed no remorse, blaming nature for making him impotent and driving him to murder. The trial, lasting until August, saw apparent bias from the judge, who frequently overruled Chikatilo's defense. Despite this, the verdict was delayed until October 15th, 1992, when Chikatilo was found guilty on 52 of the 53 murder charges. Justice finally caught up with him, and he received a death sentence for each murder.
Чикатило, по приговору суда вы приговорены к смертной казни. Вам ясен приговор суда? Ясен. Уводите.
Chikatilo's appeal argued that the judgment on his mental state was biased, but it was unsuccessful. 16 months later, on February 14, 1994, he was executed by a gunshot to the back of the head.
You paid close attention. You followed my instructions, and we certainly appreciate that.
The incident centered around Dalia DiPolito in 2009 in Florida. Dalia hired a man to kill her husband, and later, her husband's body was found. The police quickly connected her to the crime. Dalia was subsequently charged. The prosecutor detailed how the event unfolded, revealing a significant twist in the case.
Greed and manipulation is a lethal combination. It leads to lies, deceit, and betrayal for one person's personal satisfaction. Dalia DiPolito liked a certain lifestyle. She liked nice cars, money, nice jewelry, a nice house. She liked to have men shower her with love and gifts. Without a second thought, snap of her fingers, she used to manipulate men to give her what she wanted. Now, let's take a look and go back through the testimony and the evidence you heard in this case. We'll start with Mike DiPolito. Mike DiPolito is the man she's manipulated all along. The same man that she started talking about within a month of marrying. Mike DiPolito told you that they met in October of 2008. He thought they were in love. She must have saw a sucker. In January of 2009, he took money he'd saved from his business and he bought them a townhouse. The house where this murder was supposed to take place. In February of 2009, they married each other. He bought her a $20,000 engagement ring. You saw photos. He bought her expensive David Yurman jewelry, $2,000, I think, Prada purse. All these wonderful things. He did everything to keep her happy. But evidently nothing could make her happy. At least not from him. Now, you heard that Mike DiPolito was on probation. He came in here, he told you yes. He had a horrendous drug problem since the time he was very young. In and out of rehab most of his life, young life. Came down to South Florida like a lot of people do to try to get clean. Worked for a little while. He fell back off the bandwagon. And he got involved in a scam. Ripping off people. Horrendous thing to do. He doesn't deny it. Tells you he did it. They would convince people to give them money, tell them they were investing it. He said, yeah. Blew it on drugs, strippers, alcohol. Then he got caught. And he told you he owned up to that. He pled to the charges. He helped the detectives solve other cases. And he took a plea deal, served 2 years in state prison, and was on 28 years of probation. He was ordered to pay back $191,000. So he's on this probation. He told you that he had told the defendant about his problem. He told the defendant about his probation. She knew all of this before they got married. And they wanted him off probation so they could travel and do things together, like a young married couple. So they had an agreement that he would pay $100,000. She agreed to take $91,000 of her own money, put them together, and they would pay off the restitution, pay back these families. And he told you that he would give her sums of money. He'd give her different checks, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and she was taking those things. And when he got to the end of giving her $100,000, she said, she had her end of their agreement, and he'd set up to go meet this attorney, Mike. He told me he'd gone to a few different attorneys, and Mr. Enton had told him, you went off probation, you need to have this money in full. And he instructed them it should come from through being paid through a family member. That's why he was giving Dahlia this money, based on what the attorney had told him.
Objection. Facts not in evidence. Judge will reproach.
Yes.
So this money needed to come through family. That's why she had it. So he told you that they go down and she suddenly gets cold feet. She wants her $91,000 back. And he's taken by surprise, understandably. So he said that he goes from the lawyer's office in Fort Lauderdale, drives to his bank in Boca, gets the money out of his safety deposit box, goes back with that money. And she's supposed to have the cashier's check made out to Michael Linton for $191,000.
The prosecutors presented evidence of the horrific event, leaving everyone astonished by the repulsive nature of the crime.
We're staying in there, right?
All right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you look good. You up a little bit. You all right?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm good. Just, just a little water here. I just want to make sure you're all right.
No, I'm fine. I couldn't make cousin. That's why.
All right.
I guess.
Yeah, I saw that. I figured, it's Friday night, so, you want to take your precaution or whatever, relax. We're just going to talk.
Okay.
We're going to talk, get some stuff out the way.
All right.
All right. Okay. First thing first. 3,000. And then, I'll do my thing. All right. And I just got to know a little bit about the dude. You know what I'm saying? And then, I'm going to tell you how I'm going to do it and what exactly is going to be done. All right. And I don't know if you got recommendations. What you want, what you know about him. Dude, is he your husband or something? Boyfriend? Your husband? How many of you married? No, for real, because the thing is, after I talked to you today, this phone, garbage. You won't be able to get a hold of it. I just want to make sure that, it's what you want.
No.
All right? Okay. Because, I'm here on wood, I'm doing my dude a favor, and, I'm lowballing the process really, really low. You know what I mean? So I just want to make sure that, this is what you want. All right? So sure you want to kill this dude.
Do we really have to?
All right.
It's just, I'd rather be as less, whatever with you.
All right. All right. I know I got a picture of the house or whatever. I know you have an alarm system.
We have alarm motion detectors and cameras.
What's the company?
The
monitors the alarm system. It's not where coming.
No, it's not like
Not
a main,
APT
no, it's not
or
like a main company or anything like that.
so it's a smaller company.
Right.
All right.
But the thing is, the criminal this week is going to be somewhere, and so I wanted to talk to you and see if something can possibly, you know what I mean?
Well, all right. So you don't want it at the house?
I wanted to talk to you and see if it's something, you know what I mean, at that place, if you could do something like that, or if it can't be done, and
Well, that's the thing, which is why, I want to know as much information so I can plan, because I've already started planning as it's going to be the house, which is why I asked you for the key for the house. You know what I mean? Because my thing was it's going to be in and out, If you're not comfortable with a lot of people, who are not comfortable with me, with kids in the house, all that kind of stuff, like a lot of personal information. You know what I mean? It'll take a little while, but I'll get in, I don't care about the alarm system, I just got to know who it is, because a lot of times, whatever I get from whatever money I get from you, most of it goes into, planning and getting people to do stuff. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is.
how soon can we get everything going?
Well, it's up to you.
I mean, I need to tell this week, my understanding of everything was that, I was going to give you what I gave you, and then that was everything. Until after the fact, and then after the fact, I guess you were gonna come and find me or whatever, or you were gonna see where it was supposed to go. And so today when you asked me for money, you threw me off guard, and I told you okay.
Oh, right.
I said to you, okay, because I'm not gonna get on the phone and do whatever, over, but.
Okay.
I mean, I'm good for it. It's not like I don't have it.
No,
or, you know what I mean? I understand your position. I went ahead and I gave 12 with the understanding that after everything was already handled, you were going to come and find me. And I mean, I know not to fuck around with you. You know certain things, whatever. You know what I mean? You obviously know where I'm at.
Well, my thing is that I'll give you a quick breakdown of what I've done so far. I got 1,200 from you. All right? 1,200 went to my heat, okay, and a couple hundred, for other people to do things. You know what I mean? That's pretty much it. As a matter of fact, I've already spent more money, just to get here.
Right.
You understand? Because I had to get this car, I gotta get rid of this car, I had to get this phone, I gotta get rid of this phone. You know what I mean? There's a lot more I had to do.
I know. Like I told you, like I can't keep coming out of, like I've come out of pocket a lot for like a lot of other things.
That's fine.
Do you know what I mean? Like I can't get into it, like or whatever.
That's all right. Go ahead. That's all right.
So it's kind of like, you know, I'm in a position where, like I told you, like I'm good for it. Like the day that you needed it, you know, it's like I came, I met that day, it was handled. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of person that I am.
Okay.
Today, you threw me off guard when you called me at like 2, and it's not like, you know what I mean? I have a stash under my pillow.
Because I was gonna make quick. Here's what I'll do. Here's what I'll do. I'll have to correct anything because I was gonna take half of me today and then half when it's all done. That was the plan. You understand? You know, if you want to do it in the back end, you might have to get like maybe 1,000 or more. You know, top 2. You understand? Because I have to spend $1,000. You know, between today and tomorrow. Okay? If you want it done, because I was thinking, if you want it done tonight, tomorrow, or the week, I understand. I can get it done by Wednesday if you want me to. You understand? But I gotta do my homework. You know, I gotta, know exactly where the place is and how to get out of there, how to get in and out. You understand what the neighbors like? I gotta call the cops. Report to see how fast they get to that location. There's a lot of stuff I gotta do. It's gonna cost me a lot of money because I gotta buy a phone to do it with and then burn the phone later on. There's a lot I gotta do.
Alright, so what can we...
No, I don't want it. You ain't gotta do it now. As a matter of fact, you can leave the thing. You can leave, my payment at the house. If you want to do it at the house, he says he's going to be somewhere this week. If you want to do it somewhere else, then I have to meet with you, later on to cash. Understand? But you let me know. You give me a day. You give me a time.
How are we going to do it? So go ahead and do it like at the house. Like how soon could you do it?
I could do it Wednesday morning at the house.
We, the jury, find as follows. As to count 1, we find the defendant guilty of solicitation to commit first degree as charged in the information. So say we all, the 16th day of June, 2017 in West Palm Beach County, Florida, jury 4-person Thomas Haynes.
All right, Ms. Tipley, you may be seated. Does the defense wish to poll the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. There's been a request to poll the jury, and what that means is that the clerk is going to ask each of you by number. She'll just call out your number, and it's fairly simple, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whether the verdict as read is your verdict. If it's your verdict, if the verdict as read is your verdict, say yes. If it's not, obviously let us know. So the clerk may poll the jury.
Juror 1, was the verdict as read your verdict? Yes. Juror 2, was the verdict as read your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 3, was the verdict as read your verdict? Juror 4, was the verdict as read your verdict? Yes. Juror 5, was the verdict as read your verdict? Yes. Juror 6, was the verdict as read your verdict? Yes.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you on behalf of the citizens of Palm Beach County, on behalf of the parties, and certainly on my own behalf for your service in this case. It's been a long trial. You've paid close attention. You've followed my instructions, and we certainly appreciate that. It's a bit anticlimactic because you saw that when I discharged the alternates, I gave them certificates of appreciation. You're going to have those same certificates of appreciation signed by the Chief Judge of the 15th Judicial Circuit, the Honorable Jeffrey Colbath. One thing I did not mention when I discharged the alternates, attached to those certificates of appreciation, you're going to find a questionnaire. For lack of a better way to describe that questionnaire, it's a report card on me. It has to do with the manner in which I conducted the trial. You're not required to fill out that questionnaire, but we do like to get as much input as we can. So if you wish to fill out the questionnaire, you can use the envelope to return it to me. If you do choose to fill out the questionnaire, just a couple of things. First, please do not put your name on it. Also, please do not put anything on the questionnaire concerning the deliberations, the discussion, or the vote which occurred in the jury room, which leads to the last instruction I have to give to you before I discharge you for this evening. The matters which occurred in the jury room are a private affair. Absent court order, you cannot be compelled to discuss those matters with anyone. However, that is a privilege that you are free to waive. It's just like your notes. You have that privilege. You can waive that privilege. You can speak with anyone you like concerning your jury experience, including the experience that you had in the jury room. However, as I said, absent a court order, you cannot be compelled to discuss those matters. So if someone approaches you about this case and you do not wish to speak to that person about this case, you are privileged to say no. With that said, I'm now going to discharge you from service in this case. Again, with our thanks, we're going to take you out back the way we always have. Have a pleasant evening, safe drive home, and a great weekend. All right, Ms. Dipolino, now based on the jury verdict, I'm going to adjudicate you guilty of solicitation to commit first degree as charged in the information. Let's talk about a few things. This is a case, I know there was a prior conviction, but that was overturned. So I'm assuming, since it's a first felony, you'd be entitled to a PSI, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and so you'd like a PSI?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. We'll talk about the PSI, the timing of the PSI in just a minute. It'll take at least 30 days for the PSI. In terms of how much time you'll require for sentencing, I'm talking about the sentencing hearing. How much time do you want to reserve for that? Okay, so state wants at least 30 minutes. The defense, how much time would you like for sentencing?
You asked for, I'd say hour and a half, Judge.
All right, so we're talking 2 hours altogether?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, sentencing dates where I have that time available. I think it's going to be July 20. Okay. Again, they've updated the equipment. I can't use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm pretty sure July 20 is open all day. Do you want it in the afternoon? Or let's do it in the afternoon. Pardon me? You can do the 21st. Let's do it. Is the 21st better for you, Mr. All right, so let's set it, 21st is a Friday. We'll set it for 1:30, July 21st, for 2 hours. Let's order the PSI, tell them I want the PSI within 30 days. We should have it then before. Yeah, we should have it before July 21. All right, so 30 days, I want the PSI. Okay. Anything further before I remand? Okay, anything further before I remand?
That she be permitted to stay on house arrest pending sentencing. She has been a model candidate for house arrest for longer than anybody I've known on house arrest. She has a very young child. She has a stable home, a stable residence. She's never missed a court date in 8 years. As Your Honor knows, indicated earlier, there are about 30 appellate issues in this case. I mean, there's no reason why she needs to be remanded pending sentencing. I think she should be allowed to stay home with her child, with her family. She lives local. She's not a flight risk. She's proven not to be a danger. She's made no contact with anybody associated with this case. She is on house arrest. If there's anybody, any client from before this court who is less of a flight risk or danger in this situation, I would say it's Dylann Roof, Judge.
Okay. I appreciate your comments, but she's now been convicted of a first-degree felony. I'm now going to remand to the custody of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office.
Finally, after carefully considering every case detail, the judge sentenced the offender to a term fitting for such heinous acts.
My sentence is obviously going to be debated, discussed, critiqued, maybe criticized, I don't know. And so I am going to take a little time, a brief period of time, to explain my reasoning and to explain my sentence. And I'm going to try to put aside as best any human can, all of the extrinsic factors that have floated around this case, the collateral matters, which have had made the case more difficult, frankly, from a lot of different perspectives. I'm going to try to set aside that noise, so to speak, to be objective and to reach a sentence that I think is appropriate. Probably not surprisingly, I don't totally agree with either one of you. and I'll tell you how I disagree and where I do agree. With respect to the state's position on a sentence that exceeds the prior sentence of 20 years, in other words, a request for a maximum sentence going up to 30 years. I believe the state has correctly pointed out that there are exceptions to the presumption of vindictiveness. Generally speaking, under North Carolina versus Pierce, I think the Supreme Court case is that if the sentencing judge exceeds a prior sentence after appeal, there is a presumption of vindictiveness. That presumption can be overcome, but it requires evidence demonstrating that the defendant did something between the first sentencing and the second sentencing. The state has correctly pointed out that there is an exception to that where the judge that's sentencing the second time is not the same judge that sentenced the first time, which obviously is the case here. Judge Colbath sentenced the first time, I'm sentencing this time. So there is an exception in my understanding based on the case law that the state gave to me that under those circumstances, if the sentence exceeds the prior sentence, there is no presumption of vindictiveness, but the defense still has the opportunity to demonstrate actual vindictiveness. I acknowledge that as a legal principle, and so I acknowledge that there probably is authority for me exceeding the 20-year sentence previously handed down by Judge Colbath. But from my perspective, I believe that that would punish Ms. DiPolito for taking an appeal. And so from my own personal perspective, that could be viewed as vindictive. So while I have the legal right to do that, perhaps under the case law that the state has given to me, I believe that the maximum sentence in this case should not exceed the sentence that was imposed by Judge Colbath. So that's how I disagree with the state. With respect to the defense, I have to make a couple of comments concerning downward departures and also the guideline score sheet in this case. So I'll comment on those two things because from that perspective, I disagree with the defense. First, let me address the downward departure issue. Both sides know it's a two-step test. Number one, the court must determine whether the defense has provided sufficient evidence to support a downward departure. That's step one. Step two is, regardless of whether or not the defense has in fact met that burden, should the court depart. So it's a two-step process. As I understand it, the defense has raised essentially three different grounds, interrelated somewhat, but three different grounds for downward departure. So let me briefly address those. With respect to the first grounds for downward departure, that the need for restitution outweighs the need for punishment. I do not believe that ground for downward departure has been satisfied in this case, or perhaps is even relevant in this case. As pointed out by Ms. Laurie, this is not a grand theft. If this were a theft case, then perhaps restitution would be primary on everyone's mind. This is a solicitation to commit first degree. So I do not believe that restitution really is a driving issue in this case. Even to the extent that Mr. DiPolito would want restitution, I don't think that need or that desire, sitting where I'm sitting, would outweigh the need for punishment. So I do not believe that basis for a downward departure exists. With respect to the second statutory grounds for downward departure, my understanding is this wasn't raised specifically in your motion, Mr. Rosenfeld, but I understand that it's the isolated incident, unsophisticated, for which the defendant has shown remorse, which is a statutory basis to depart. Candidly, I do not believe the evidence supports that ground for downward departure either. I think, candidly, the first element may have been satisfied, isolated incident. I know the argument Ms. Laurie raised about the other prior acts leading up to the solicitation, but it is her first charged crime, so there are no other crimes. I think isolated incident may be satisfied. I do not believe that it's been proven that it was unsophisticated, given the evidence and facts in this case. Also, I do not believe that there's been sufficient evidence of remorse. I understand the argument. Well, first of all, I understand the handicap if you're not going to allocute because of appeal, so that is a bit of a handicap in raising that issue. But the argument, candidly, that she was willing to turn the house back over and that shows remorse, frankly, just doesn't fly with me. That's not something that I think satisfies that requirement. The last ground you raise is a non-statutory basis, which frankly, if you look at the case law, is pretty wide open with respect to non-statutory grounds. You can argue just about anything under that catch-all, and it may be a grounds for departure. That ground may have been satisfied here.
Although humans are social beings, some people behave similarly to animals. They do not consider how their actions affect others. We have to give this 1 point for sheer audacity. Kelly Filkins got into trouble over 2 cell phones she was supposedly selling. The winning bidder was shocked to receive photos of the phones instead of the actual devices.
For my money back, and he said, no, I've already spent the money on merchandise I wanted to get, and he laughed and told me to take him to court.
While her husband avoided appearing in court, Filkins insisted that it should have been clear to the plaintiff that they were paying over $400 for pixelated pictures of the item, not the actual phones.
The paper that she just handed you, that I sent her, that was part of the...
Listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully. I want you to listen.
Yes, you heard that right, and yes, we know it's unhinged. Naturally, Judge Judy doesn't have it.
Photographs of the cell phones. And you say that that's what she paid for, 2 photographs of the cell phones. Are we understanding each other?
Yes.
You're an idiot! The reason your husband is not here is because he sent you here to the lion's den because he was a coward.
And she really lets her have it. Divorce can be messy, but in Judge Judy's courtroom, outrageous behavior makes it even messier. As a family court judge for many years, she has shown a definite soft spot for children caught up in divorces.
You don't tell her first because you feel as if you have to get it off your chest that you were messing around.
He was messing around first, Your Honor.
This defendant didn't need to say much in court to earn Judge Judy's anger, because without any evidence, she once told her daughter that her ex, the little girl's father, might not actually be her father.
And you told her that there was a chance that he wasn't her father.
Yes.
And you did that because I don't believe in keeping secrets from my kids.
Yes.
It goes without saying that this makes the judge lose it. As Judge Judy lays into her, the woman's lack of remorse makes it even more frustrating and ultimately more satisfying.
People that I've come across in a long time and you haven't even said 2 words. You're a moron! And you still don't even get it.
A case about a car accident takes a dark turn. Literally, these litigants were in the middle of an argument while the plaintiff was driving, and he alleges that the defendant, who was intoxicated, took control of the vehicle and caused the accident.
I'm just asking you a question. So the first time when you said, did you have anything to drink? You said no. I just don't believe that you went to a graduation party and you didn't have anything to drink.
You intimidated me a little bit, so that was why I said no.
Yet, both have little trouble being honest. However, introducing liars to the truth is Judge Judy's specialty.
Police memorialized what you told them.
Yes.
So that my question is, you lied to the police.
Yes, I lied. He was telling me to. He was yelling at me over and over again.
You mean in front of the police he was saying, lie to the police, lie to the police.
The police don't magically appear when a crash happens, do they?
You can probably guess what the final ruling ended up being in this case. Litigants usually behave in the best way in court. They have to be, because Judge Judy tolerates no disrespect.
Your Honor, this is a video.
Don't. I have eyes. Just give me the date of the video.
When the defendant in this case presents a video of the plaintiff angrily kicking in her door and wrestling the phone out of her hands, the judge can see exactly how the alleged assault occurred. It's a deeply uncomfortable moment.
Did you put your hands on her?
Did
you? Just a second.
Okay, after that video?
Did you? You kicked in her door. Play it again, please.
Kicked in the door.
Play it again, please. Kicked in the door with an attitude that was crazy.
Even though the offending woman denies what everyone can see, she can barely contain her anger toward the defendant and the judge. Judge Judy is not having it. These two neighbors decided to bring their unhinged feud to the courtroom. This long-standing conflict escalated to the defendant staging a protest in front of the plaintiff's house, shouting profanities into a bullhorn. Luckily for us, it's all been caught on video.
Gotta have something to show the cops when they get here.
The defendant insists she was exercising her First Amendment right and that it was not a crime. However, the judge insists that her conduct was disorderly, which is actually a crime.
You can exercise your First Amendment rights, but if your conduct is disorderly, they can arrest you. Do you understand?
It wasn't just a conduct. It was.
Oh, I could actually make a case for that.
And he will not leave me alone. He's been harassing me for 2.5 years, and every time a twig falls in his yard, he calls the cops on me, and I felt that this was my only last resort.
It almost feels like these two deserve each other. You have to be 14 different shades of petty to sue your friend for breaking your toilet, but that's precisely what this plaintiff did.
How do you think she did that?
She must have fell on it. Fell on it. She must have fell back, sat on the toilet.
But you don't know.
I'm positive she's the only person that used the bathroom that night.
Lise Reed claims that her friend must pay for the toilet because she was the last one to sit on it before it cracked. However, this doesn't sit well with Judge Judy or the audience, who can barely contain their laughter.
No, all I want to know is, did you fall on it? Did you kick it?
Heck no.
Did you hit it with a hammer? Did
No.
Did you hit it with a wrench?
No, Your Honor, no.
It broke.
But this plaintiff thinks she's justified in treating her former friend this way. Trying to humiliate her on national TV is the height of arrogance.
You're not following me. I agree with you. The toilet broke while she was using it. That doesn't mean that she broke it.
Luckily, Judge Judy knows exactly how to make a misguided litigant look even more ridiculous. Did he think he was showing up to court or an audition?
You rehearsed the story at least for 2-3 hours in front of a mirror. I'd like you to give it to me without the rehearsed in front of a mirror approach.
Either way, the judge does not have this defendant's clearly rehearsed story about how he wasn't at fault for wrecking his friend's motorcycle. After she's done dismantling his courtroom demeanor, she starts poking holes in his story.
2 minutes ago, you told me you didn't know anybody there, really. And then you just told me that you were the only one there who had to get up to go to work the next.
When she shakes him up a little, he starts admitting to other indiscretions involving other bikes he had no license to drive. You can tell that even through her frustration, Judge Judy is enjoying watching him crash and burn.
I have previous experience on dirt bikes, and I have driven bikes on the road before.
Just a second. Are you trying to tell me that you've broken the law before? Is that what you're telling me?
Litigants like this make her job so much easier. Plaintiff Lonnie Cooper may have ulterior motives in suing her mother for borrowed money. It might just be the only way her mother will see her.
She sent me a text. Lonnie, do not come over here. I will call the police and have you arrested for trespassing. It's better to live it this way.
Defendant Tara Landry has all but shut her daughter out of her life because she is not raising her children in the church. Even when Lonnie holds up a picture of her grandchildren, Tara can't get past her disappointment about them not being baptized.
The kids won't not be going to heaven.
Enough already. Because trust me, there is no God that I can envision that could be smiling upon your behavior.
In this ridiculous argument between exes, an aggravatingly stubborn litigant tests Judge Judy's patience. All she wants to know is whether he wants his television back, but his replies suggest that this argument isn't even about the item.
Is it still in your living room?
Yes.
And still functioning?
Yes.
And you want it back?
No, I just want to get compensated for the reason why.
No.
Why not?
Nothing complicated about her question, which only warrants a yes or no answer. However, the plaintiff insists on deflecting or posing his questions so persistently that it makes us want to bang our heads against a wall.
You want the television back?
Is she going to fix that too?
No. Do you want the television back?
I need to get compensated for it.
All right, so then we're done with the TV.
Just as we think it's finally settled, the whole thing starts again over a computer. Clearly, this guy was confident he would win, and he refused to go down quietly.
You should run it on the computer upstairs.
No. That's not my computer.
I don't care.
No. And these are the programs that I had.
She can't do anything about that.
Yes, she can.
He should probably stop talking now. In Judge Judy's courtroom, judgment can be swift and merciless. That's what plaintiff Caroline Fawcett found out during this short case about room and board fees for a horse she had leased to own.
You made one payment of $100, and you sold the horse to her for $1,500, which means she owes you $1,400.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Caroline doesn't expect to lose this case because her reaction when the judge rules against her is the stuff of bad community theater.
We're done. Thank you.
Parties are excused, mister.
While she leans over the podium like she's about to have a massive coronary, the audience members behind her can do nothing but cringe at her histrionics. Some may say that if you walk the hallowed halls of Judge Judy's set, you can still hear her hyperventilating.
Oh my gosh.
They're not the first family on the People's Court, but they are one of the messiest.
Is it accurate that there's a restraining order for you to stay away from her and I guess the...
Yes, they're the parents, so, they have to say so, but yes, it's active. And
Okay, all right. So then what's the next court action you folks have? Who files against who?
While plaintiff Jeressa Taylor's story about her cousin Rashonda Vick is compelling, the defendant might be the real victim. In light of problems with her teenage son, the plaintiff appears to have launched a defamation campaign against Vick, including allegations of drug use, abuse, and human trafficking. However, it becomes clear that she and her mother are the true instigators, abusing child services for their personal vendetta.
Did you call DCF on her?
That they filed
the Department of Children and Family Services?
No, they called me while I was at work.
Yeah, but they had to be calling you back. They don't know you.
The plaintiff's decision to bring this case to court, let alone national TV, shows how warped their minds are. If anything, their outrageous behavior vindicated the defendant.
Said the only one you're letting fully explain anything?
That's not true.
Well, ma'am, when I try...
Yeah, that's not true. It just looks like it's not going well for you. That's why you said that.
We're not entirely convinced that this plaintiff has ever watched Judge Judy before.
Well, listen, if you chose to be a schlemiel and live that way, that's your issue. She chose not to be a schlemiel.
She did live that way. You honor?
You're not, hey!
He argues that his ex won't return or pay him back for a tractor, while she counterclaims that he owes her a truck. To make matters worse, the defendant kicked him out of the house after he started a relationship with her best friend.
You left.
Not willingly.
Well, you didn't expect her to live in a situation where you had a more than friendly relationship with her best friend.
Luckily, the judge was there to serve justice and highlight the plaintiff's stupidity. Well, actually, she didn't have to do much. The plaintiff pretty much confessed to his idiocy.
Just a second, that's what we're talking about. She says,
and the house that I paid for that she's still living in.
Really? Are you really that dumb to put a house in her name?
Yes.
Just a second.
Judge Judy sums it up really neatly.
Listen, there are certain things that you can't help, and one of those things, Mr. Wallen, is stupid. I can't help you.
Not every day, someone has a violent tantrum in the courtroom. According to plaintiff Devin Johnson, he was just an innocent consumer led astray by defendant Joseph Moretti.
You feel that he did a bunch of wasted work, and as it turns out, all he had to do was use a key, so you want to pay what?
No.
What is it you want to pay? What is it you want?
All he wanted was to install copper pipes. But when the defendant determined that he didn't need them, Johnson wanted all his money back. When he didn't get what he wanted, Moretti alleges that Johnson kicked his car.
A big dent inside of my car. I was
do you have a
actually
picture of the
telling
car?
the guy just to get him out of there. I was going to give him another $200 just to get him away.
When the judge ruled that he'd only get half of his money back, Johnson kicked the courtroom door open and stormed out, effectively proving the defendant's story. Judge Millian did not have it.
Never mind, I changed my mind.
Yeah, please.
Actually, because
that's exactly the way it happened.
That's exactly the way it happened. And
He
so you
showed
go
his true
take care of
colors
your
right
man,
there.
and I hope you're going to be okay. And forget it.
She withdrew the verdict in his favor and criticized the man until he left. Mitchell Ergens, the plaintiff, sued the owner of a restaurant for vandalism. He demanded the restaurant cover the cost of his entire meal because they once forgot his salad dressing, which upset the employees.
What kind of extra dressing did you want?
Italian dressing. Couple extra cups.
Even though he was in the wrong, his complaint about the salad dressing dominated the case. Judge Judy, surprisingly calm at first, listened to him complain about not being able to eat his sandwich without the dressing for the first minute or so.
You couldn't eat the sandwich?
Not by that time, because we normally put the salad dressing on the sandwich.
Even though the plaintiff technically won the case, he was essentially laughed out of the courtroom.
For your sandwich, go to the store and buy a bottle of dressing so you have dressing for the sandwich.
But it's not the same dressing. Their salad dressing has their own.
Some people will do anything for a freebie, even if it means humiliating themselves in front of Judge Judy.
You say I'm prepared to pay you extra to send me extra dressing because I like dressing on my sandwich.
If they said it cost extra, I would have been happy to pay for it.
Not even the audience is safe from her wrath. One poor audience member learned this when the judge found his laugh a little too loud.
Out.
At least, we think that was the issue she had with him. We wouldn't want to be in his shoes. He looks like he just got scolded by a teacher. You can tell he's in shock, appears confused, and even tries to apologize.
Out.
Yeah.
It would be you. Out. Just go.
But it's too late. The judge continues with the case as if nothing happened. It just goes to show that the only one allowed to be unhinged in Judge Judy's courtroom is Judge Judy herself.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What sets Judge Judy's courtroom apart from any ordinary one? It's on television. This means everything you say and do is recorded, and that little device they attach to litigants at the beginning is a microphone.
You are not getting anything. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. We're done. Thank you.
Clearly, this guy didn't get the memo because he muttered his rejection of the judge's ruling under his breath.
That you would be bound by this court's determination. When I ruled that she got the dog back, what you said was, she's not getting the dog.
Did he forget that he was mic'd up, or does he not know how a microphone works? Either way, he awakens the judge's beast mode, and she reminds him of the contract he signed before appearing on the show when the case gets recalled.
We have a contract.
Yes, Your Honor.
You and this program. You abide by my decision, or we do a zippity-doo-dah for you, including getting you home. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you ask, he got off lightly, but his idiocy will forever live in infamy online. Big thanks to our viewers for joining the courtroom journey with us. Your interest in the stories of justice is what keeps our channel alive.